You know, Lloyd, just when I think you couldn't possibly be any dumber, you go and do something like this. And totally redeem yourself!
Hey everyone, Stacks here. Welcome to the channel, and of course, if you haven't yet, make sure you hit that subscribe button, prepare to leave a like, and leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think about the video. I gotta give a shout out to my boy Wes over at Thinking Critical, kind of stealing his intro a little bit, but this just seemed like the perfect issue to do this with and to do that intro with, because you know, I've been kind of down on Marauders, but they took a step here that is definitely interesting, so we're going to get right into it. I hope it hasn't been spoiled for you online yet. Let's go. Once again, we have Gerry Duggan writing, Matteo Lolli and Mario Del Pino as your artists, and your color artists are Eric Arcianega and Federico Blee. So your quick catch up from Marauders 5. You have Shinobi Shaw, the Black Bishop, who is under attack in Madripoor. So they summon in the Marauders. The Marauders show up, and Bishop and Storm are the first one on the scene. Well, they're met with these the Russian suits that we saw in Marauders 1 with the mutant power dampening ability. They're met with a bunch of those, so they're instantly in a fight without their mutant powers. Well, Kitty Pryde, Iceman, and Pyro are not too far behind them, and when they show up, they actually almost get T-boned by another ship. Fortunately, Kate manages to phase the ship, and it passes right through, but then suddenly the Executioner and the Hatemonger are jumping on board, boarding the ship, and Bobby Drake is getting pounded. And that's where we kick off this fight. With Bobby down, Pyro is stepping up, and he's trying to lace into both the Executioner and Hatemonger. Hatemonger goes to deliver a death blow on Bobby, who's laying there on the floor, passed out, and Kate reaches up through the floor and pulls him down. She phases him through the floor where he's out of the fight and tells Lockheed, "You look out for him. Krakoan laws don't apply for you. Somebody comes through that door, you toast him." And with that, Kate heads back up on the deck to re-enter the fight. When she gets up there, Hatemonger has Pyro in a rear naked choke, and he's telling him, "Just let it happen. Shh." Well, Kate grabs him, phases him through the lock, and puts a knife in the back of Hatemonger. Well, at that point, Executioner reaches out with the staff, goes to stab Kate, but misses. Well, what she doesn't think about is what's standing right behind her, and that's Pyro, and he gets stabbed right in the chest. Now, as bad as that sounds, that's really only half of it, because we jump to Yellow Jacket, and we find out that Yellow Jacket has been inserted via this staff into Pyro's bloodstream, and he's got directions to head up and to link in with the optic nerve so he can find out and observe what's going on. And what's explained here really is Verendi's plan. And what they're going to do, they're going to link into the optic nerve. They're going to be able to listen. They have data collection abilities now with Yellow Jacket being inside of Pyro. And they're going to take that information, they're going to take that data, and they're going to sell it to governments across the world for millions and millions of dollars, because at this point, there is a severe lack of intelligence on Krakoa, and people are still trying to scramble and find out what's their endgame. Despite that, back in X-Men 4, Magneto explained everything they're going to do to him, they still are out trying to figure out what is Krakoa's endgame, what are they up to, what's their next move. From here, we jump back to the Upstart, where Storm is patching up Shinobi Shaw, and he tells her, "Look, I don't think the ship can get that far." And she tells him, "Look, there's a secret gateway. We'll get to it. Don't worry about it." Back on the ship, on the other ship, you have Kate still fighting with the Executioner and the Hatemonger. I keep calling him the Hatemonger. Anyway, it's at this point that she has to kind of inform them, "Look, I'm not afraid of you anymore, so don't let this next move go to your head." And at that point, she jumps across and phases into the side of another ship that's pulled up beside them. And they just kind of, And Hatemonger actually says, "I better call Pierce." And once Kate gets over there, she's in the belly of this ship. Is that the hull of the ship? And there are tons of these mutant dampening suits, power dampening suits, that is. Now, it's at this point that they obviously switched artists, because it's to the point of distracting the quality drop off, in my opinion. I'll talk about that more at the end, but at this point you have her phase up to the deck, and it's Donald Pierce. And Donald Pierce has been like a member of every imaginable anti-mutant group through the history of time. And you also have this lady, Chen Zhao, who was a She was in an issue earlier, I think issue 2 or 3, and they rescued her husband and basically embarrassed her in front of the entire government for trying to stage a fake mutant abduction of some guy. That guy just so happened to be her husband, though. Well, now she's Madripoor's ambassador to the United Nations. And when Pierce kind of tells Kate that, hey, this is our new ambassador to the United Nations, she's like, you were a Chinese citizen like a week ago. And this Chinzao lady basically says, your country didn't exist a month ago. It's like, checkmate. To make a long story short on this, Storm and Bishop end up clearing the deck. Pierce gets tossed off into the ocean, and so does what's her name, and from there the team decides that with all the mutant dampening stuff that's on board, it's too dangerous just to sink and leave in the ocean because then it can be recovered. But it's also too dangerous to take back to Krakoa. So instead, they're going to head to the island of M with it. Now, what happens next is pretty cringe-inducing, and I'll talk about it at the end, but they're trying to figure out who's going which way. They're trying to keep somebody with Kitty Pryde because, once again, they don't know if the resurrection protocols are going to work on her. It's honestly one of the reasons she has 2 Omega-level mutants with her on her team. She said so herself when talking to Emma Frost. Bobby Drake mentioned the same thing when he was talking to Christian Frost. So there should be this concern that, hey, look, we got to keep an eye on Kitty Pryde. Now, she is very much of the, I don't need nobody babysitting me kind of thing. But it's true that it's very possible that she cannot be respawned the way that all these other mutants are. Same, and this goes back to tying into why is Krakoa rejecting her? Why can't she travel through the portals? So what the team has right now is 2 separate missions. One of them is they need to get Shinobi Shaw and that ship back to Krakoa. Then you have this other ship with the mutant power dampening suits on it that needs to go to Island of M. And this is bad right here. The reason that Bobby Drake cannot do this, the reason he cannot go with her to the Island of M is because, quote, he's got to be a guest judge on Drag Race next week. And, I mean, come on, really? This would have made a lot more sense if he was hurt. If when, Hate Monger cut him or something, he was hurt, they could have done something. But instead, they got to keep playing up this, oh yeah, by the way, did we mention Iceman's gay in this issue enough? Nope, we sure haven't. Let's do it 2 more times. It's ridiculous, it's stupid, and it's shoehorned in there, and it's just annoying. They have officially taken an Omega-level mutant, made him a gay stereotype, and if anybody should be offended by the way they're treating Iceman, it should be the gay community, because they've turned him into a joke. Anyways, going forward, Kate's alone on the ship. She's sitting there, hanging out. You notice one of these masks is open on one of these suits for some reason, and Lockheed notices someone coming up behind Kate, and it's Sebastian Shaw. Hits Lockheed with a net, balls him up, so he's out of commission. Kate starts at him, and that's when Sebastian Shaw says, "Hello, Kitty. I've brought some Krakoan seeds I think you will find very interesting." And that's when she says, "Look, you're going to be sleeping next to Sabretooth the way you're going." Sebastian Shaw says he doubts that very much because these seeds he dropped turn into Krakoan vines that wrap around Kate and keep her from moving. Well, with all this happening, Kate asked him, "So you care this much about a second quiet council seat? Are you serious?" And he kicks the sword out of her hand and says, "Absolutely. I will need it in order to acquire my 3rd council seat." He picks up Lockheed at that point and just tosses him overboard while he's still in the net. I guess that's actually called a bola, isn't it? Whatever it is, he's in the water now. And at that point, she's screaming, "No, Shaw, I give up. Just save Lockheed." And he's like, "I'm afraid not. And you also have someplace to be." He pulls out a detonator, hits the button, and detonates the ship. And it's at this point you get the villainous monologue from Sebastian Shaw, who says, "Whatever quirk of your power stops you from using the portals likely keeps you out of the resurrection protocols. Why else would your friends be guarding you like a precious treasure? Take heart, Kitty. This is the course correction for mutantdom. I will have Shinobi in your chair, and soon a queen of my choosing wearing white. Do you think the world of man wants to sit across from a table and negotiate with a telepath? And I'll give it to him. He's got a good point there. I don't want to negotiate with somebody who could be poking and prodding around in my head. And we know that Emma Frost will do that. She did that to the Russian consulate during House of X and Powers of X. He then makes the point that, look, when they negotiate with me, they're not afraid. But regardless, in 5 years, I still will have overseen the greatest transfer of wealth the world has ever known. But his final parting shot is he says, I gotta thank you today. It was not difficult to entice today's participants. Even with the high turnover rate for our vessels, we've been printing money. And he talks about how he socialized this basically with Christian Frost and how it came into happening, but ultimately it was Kitty Pryde's pride that got her, in the fact that she would not be, quote, babysat, and if she hadn't cleared the ship of all her Omega level friends, this wouldn't have happened. And it's at that point, as Kitty starts going underwater, she's like, I will live again, and I will kill you, and when I return, you will beg for my blade. Sebastian Shaw just shrugs and says, perhaps, Kitty, but not today. And that's it for Marauder 6. Alright, so the good, the bad, and the ugly on this issue. If we're being serious, the Iceman part was stupid. Kitty Pryde just died because Iceman had to go be a judge on a TV show. That's stupid. It would have made a lot more sense from a writer's perspective if he had been hurt. If he had been stabbed, or I mean, even if still we're talking about an Omega level mutant getting hurt, but you had power dampeners on the battlefield, it could have happened. It could have been managed better, but instead we had that insert silliness because it's Gerry Duggan. Don't get me wrong. Overall, I really like this issue. Some of the intricacies of it I didn't like. I will say that also that there's some of the art on here. It took a hard dive on some pages. I think you're starting to see the results of them pushing for these titles every 2 weeks, and artists are going to start slipping. Back to the credits for this, you had two pencilers, and you had 2 colorists. I mean, so they're doing more than one team can handle, and anytime you have 2 different styles, even though they're close, you could still tell where the differences were in this book and where the art teams shifted. I said this last week when I did my X-Men roll-up, my current state of Jonathan Hickman book. I think Marauders is trending up. I do think this book was better. I do think it's getting better. I do wish it would get out of its own way with some of this stuff. This issue being an example where this would have been a home run book, but they just get stupid sometimes because Gerry Duggan, he wrote Deadpool for years, and he gets stuck in that, and sometimes he can't get out of his own way. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying this isn't a good book, but that jump from good to great, I just don't think that wall is a little bit too high at this point for him, unless he can stop some of the silliness. Going forward on this book, I'm definitely going to pick up number 7. It looks like it's going to get really interesting with the Hellfire Corporation stuff. And even as much as I don't like the Mortis Verandae or whatever they are, they're raising all kinds of cane. I do like the intel part of it. I do like the Yellow Jacket insert into Pyro, and basically connecting with the optic nerves, where he's going to have visual intel. He's going to have audio. He's going to be able to find out the inner workings of Krakoa. As you know, he's going to know pretty much anything that Pyro knows at some point. So that's going to be very interesting going forward. Going to be very interesting to see the dynamics within the Hellfire Corporation now with the Red Queen down. So anyways, guys, that's all I got. Hope you take time to hit that subscribe button. Leave a like. It helps draw more views to the channel. And, of course, leave a comment down below. Tell me what you thought about the book. I plan on doing Excalibur number 6 here shortly, which I will say was improved. And also, if I have time this weekend, I may look at doing Guardians of the Galaxy number 1. That one did not improve from Donny Cates' run. Hopefully I'll have a Thor number 2 preview for you and an X-Force number 6 preview out soon as well, guys. So trying to get a lot done this weekend. I hope you guys have a good one. Anyways, guys, I appreciate it. Real Comic Stacks, out.